We should send, like, our podcasts to, like, the Ukraine or something.
You know, Eli, the thing that I hate the most about online content, whether it be Magic or otherwise, is fear-mongering, baiting people to be hating things, and just overall outrage culture. And with that said, today we're going to be talking about what would make us quit the format.
Yeah. We freaking hate this game.
Yeah. I'm Spencer Cook.
And I'm Elijah Samuelson. Welcome back to the return of EDH takes.
Yeah. It's been a little bit. I mean, a couple weeks. I think 3 weeks or so.
We're trying to catch up. You have to believe me. Believe me, please, that we're aware of the problem and we're taking actions to fix it. We're much like the I'm not going to go there.
I don't even want to know what you're going to say. But you know, like I said today, you know, we've achieved the clickbait, and now that you're here, there's I mean, I've been playing Magic a long time, Eli. You have too. You know, upwards of almost 10 years at this point, I suppose.
I think over 10 years at this point.
For you, not for me.
Yeah.
But I definitely am of the opinion that Commander or Magic in general is one of those games where you may lose interest sometimes or have more interest other times, and it's a game that you take a break from, but not a game that you quit. That's my opinion.
Yeah, you see a lot of people fall in and out of love with Magic.
Yeah.
And one thing we talk about sometimes, Spencer, usually jokingly, is, man, if they do this, like X, Y, or Z, like, I'm going to quit the format. Mm-hmm. And they being either like the rules committee or Wizards or
whatever. Yeah. Then
if this thing happens, like, what would it take for me to quit the format? And usually we're joking about it, but we wanted to take a closer look today at what could happen, or what culmination of things, like what combination could happen that would make us actually want to quit Commander.
Well, one thing, just for a second here, other forms of Magic, not Commander. I know there are a lot of pro players that quit Magic, or at least quit competitive Magic, in the fallout of the way that the competitive scene was kind of destroyed a couple years ago. And that just kind of... And I wonder if anything, the things that are happening in Commander these days will ever lead us to something like that, where like a lot of prominent figures in the Commander scene just quit.
Yeah, it's tough because I think usually, as I understand it, I mean, sure, there's some mismanagement of like the tournament structure and everything, but I think with like pro play, like you were saying, it's a lot of those people shackled like their livelihood to Magic.
Yeah. And
when it became just so volatile, it's really not reasonable to want to keep that lifestyle going.
Especially when Wizards was kind of showing them that it wasn't super viable for them, right?
Right.
Also, I suppose the amount of people in the Commander scene that are that like rely on Commander for their income is pretty small, I would say. I mean, there's like the content creators that you know, but outside of that, I'm not sure if there's other people that really experience that, right?
Yeah, I wonder if there's anything that could change about Commander that would really like
make it volatile for content creators to make content.
Yeah, that would change the game for something like the Command Zone. Like if Wizards suddenly, I know they partially sponsor something like game nights, and they were like, hey guys, we're going to release way more sets, and we're going to expect a game nights full length for every single one all the time now.
Yeah, I suppose outside of like some sort of like copyright like restrictions on like what they're allowed to do, I can't think of much that would cause game nights to like lose its financial ability to make money, right? Or at least be uncertain. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I guess that's not really I don't think that's really a concern for like the aristocrats of the format, you know, the high ups quitting.
Oh, you know what might be the thing that stops Josh and Command Zone from making game nights and stuff?
Lawsuits.
Well, that, or if like Murph and the gang finally rose up and demanded pay for their work. No, they get paid probably. I can't say whether or not they do.
Oh, it's hard to, I mean, you know, in money
we're just asking questions.
Just asking questions. Who's this? Is it? What was the South Park scene or whatever? It's like, yeah, Murph, right. I understand. You get paid in cardboard and you're chained up in the basement of the commander of the game night's studio. Is that true? Is that not true? It's a question.
We're just not sure.
Yeah.
There's no way to know.
But so I think what we're going to focus on a lot of here is what would make individuals that are not like reliant on Commander as like income make them quit. Like make us quit. You know, people who are...
Yeah, this is a lot of our personal things, but it's just something to muse on. Like thinking, I just want to see like if we can figure out where the line would be for the average person, and you know, it's kind of doom and gloom. What if, like, I don't know if there's it's pretty subjective.
I think it's probably very good for your mental to know, like, if you can like think what would actually like make me mad enough or make me upset enough to quit. You can kind of look at maybe how you appreciate the game, what you like about it, and maybe even know yourself better. You know, they say know your enemy, but I would say, you know yourself, because you're your own enemy. You're your worst enemy.
It's true.
Yeah, but I guess to get started here, right? One of the first things that I think I or you think of, Eli, is if they take our toys away, our favorite toys, right? They can pry those toys from our cold, dead hands.
Yeah, this is the first thing that I always talk about. Now, we'll joke about together, but I play a lot of, say, the card Sarah Ascendant. Mm-hmm. And anytime I play that, like, there's usually somebody who's like, wow, that's really stupid, or that doesn't make sense, or whatever. And I don't think it's a card that's on the radar of like getting banned. And some of these things we're going to talk about, I don't think the rules committee would ban. But if they took my Sarah Ascendant away from me, Spencer,
that'd be a blow to your heart.
I would be so freaking mad. Like comparatively to like all the other things that are allowed in Commander.
Yeah,
because people like to, you know. It's no secret here. We talk about acknowledge this a lot, and you see it in the Commander community. People like to rag on white, but I think nobody can deny the power of a Sarah Ascendant, especially like turn one.
Yeah,
like that's just to me, it's like this this holy sword handed down from Wizards of the Coast to slay the degenerate bug players and all the other color combinations in Commander.
The sword from Arthurian legend.
Yeah, it's just so powerful. Nothing really holds a candle to it. I don't think.
If you want to hear more about Sarah Ascendant, you can go watch episode 2, where we talked about cards that may or may not be better than Sol Ring. And that was one of the talking points of that episode was Sarah Ascendant.
But that's definitely a card that, when it was designed, Commander really wasn't a thing, yeah. And so it wasn't designed to function well with Commander.
So that's why there's like that little bit of thought in your mind of like, you know, this could go. Like someone could like snap and get mad and ban this. Like I don't think that's how the banning works. But like usually we don't. So we made an episode a while back, maybe a year back or a little less than that, talking about like the rules committee and like what they do and how
the ban list works. Yeah,
that's what it was called. How the ban list works. And we sang a lot of praise for the rules committee in that episode and thought it was a pretty interesting system. But then we got kind of jarred the other direction when a month later they had the Golos / Worldfire ban, or ban/unban. They banned Golos and unbanned Worldfire, and I think that caught like just about everybody by major surprise, including ourselves. And it kind of made me lose a little bit of faith in the rules committee, in the sense that before that happened, I felt like I understood how they banned things, and now I feel like I don't.
Right, nothing was that. I think the banning before that one was Hull Breacher, right, which was a card that I don't think anyone could see an argument for that, like, being good for the format.
Yeah.
Or, like, a fun thing.
Yep.
Yeah, so it was just super weird, and, we were both very surprised about that, especially how soon it came after that, when we were kind of thinking, like, well, Commander seems, all things considered, relatively healthy post Jeweled Lotus and stuff like that.
Commander Legends 1, yep.
Yeah.
And then it kind of came out of left field with, like, this Golos ban and Worldfire unban, which is also a very, very, very strange thing. I mean, not that I don't necessarily think that it's bad that it was unbanned, but it just out of left field, right?
Yeah, and there's been more activity on the ban list, like bannings and unbannings lately, I feel like, in the last couple years. Like, one that happened that I wouldn't agree with, but I could definitely see the argument for, was Iona getting banned.
And then Painter Servant unban, yeah, at the same time.
Yeah, which, Iona getting banned, that was just because that card had been a thing for so long that it felt strange. It should be banned.
It felt like kind of part of the format at that point, right?
Yeah, or like something that just, it had been allowed to exist as long as it had, and like when they did ban it, I always remember we like to defend the rules committee as much as we can, but I think back to their statement about it, and like, it's come to our attention that people are cheating this into play.
It's like
oh, you don't say.
It's come to our attention in what was it, 2018 or 17 or something? Like after it's been happening for 5 years before then.
Yeah, and like I always like to think that when they write their statements, like they're being very genuine and they're not trying to be clever or like try to deceive people. But it's like you don't have to like show your ass that hard sometimes.
Yeah,
even if you're being genuine.
I get you. So like we were saying though, we a little bit less confident in the stability of the ban list, so that it makes us a little bit scared about some of our toys. Eli, I know you mentioned Sarah Ascendant. I think then just to launch off and do a couple of cards that maybe they should be banned, but I don't know. It's just a discussion about these. The obvious ones are Dockside Extortionist. I mean, and maybe Smothering Tithe in that category, but we can maybe talk about Dockside first.
So Dockside it's an interesting card for me because I have it in a few decks, and I really do kind of enjoy playing. Like I say that I enjoy playing it, but then I also think about how wrong that can go when you play that card. If somebody steals it or clones it or they reanimate it in some way, like they do something with it, and
that is kind of the thing.
You've introduced it into the game, and now like you kind of have to live with that.
That's actually true though, because like when someone plays a Dockside, the game to some extent does become kind of clone the Dockside, reanimate the Dockside, stuff like that, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, and I remember the games where it's gone well for me, where I think I felt really powerful because I played Dockside, but at the same time, I can't think of the games with Dockside and think, were those better games because Dockside was in it? Mm-hmm. I think usually no. I remember we played a game not too long ago where somebody played a bunch of artifacts on turn 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And then either you or our friend Garrett played a Dockside really early for like a decent amount of treasure. And then the next player, I think, cloned it, right?
Yep, I think, yep. And it's like, oh no, Garrett, look what you've done.
Yeah.
You've ruined us.
Yeah, so I think Dockside Extortionist is actually pretty likely to get banned. What do you think, Spencer?
I think it's the most likely card of any of the ones that we're going to talk about today to get banned. I think so.
It might be the most likely card in the entire like format right now.
I would
get
think
banned.
so.
If they were going to pick one card, I think that would be it.
Yeah. And how do we feel about that? I know we have mixed feelings on Dockside. I like playing with Dockside. I like playing with it myself. Mm-hmm. But also, I fully recognize that I probably wouldn't be upset if it got banned, except for the fact that I own one, right? But the value would go down. But besides monetary reasons, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, man. It would even frustrate me even more if any of the other cards we talk about today get banned, but Dockside doesn't get banned, because it's like, isn't Dockside kind of like a super degenerate kind of thing?
I mean, if they are going to ban it, it'd be kind of nice if it's, assuming it's not getting reprinted, if they banned it sooner than later, so you don't have somebody go out and buy
$80
Dockside and then have it get banned the next day.
And go to $10, $12 immediately.
Yeah, that would feel pretty awful.
Yep, that would feel bad.
But Smothering Tithe, yeah, that's one people always bring up in the same breath, I feel like, as Dockside Extortionist, because they're like, oh, this makes treasures, that makes treasures.
Yeah.
This is a good card, that's a good card. I don't think Smothering Tithe is that bad.
I think...
Right? I know most people don't enjoy playing against it, but I think, yeah, it's just I think that's the aspect of people finding that sort of thing annoying, like do you pay the...
Do you pay
whatever?
the 2?
Yeah,
whatever. I don't think, like you said, Eli, I don't think Smothering Tithe is in the same tier as Dockside. It's obviously a great card, right? Like, no one's gonna like, for white players, we play Smothering Tithe in many decks.
Yeah.
And it can do very broken things with, wheels and stuff like that, especially. I actually had a game the other day, Eli, where I lost the because I was trying to combo off with some stuff, and I Narset wheeled, right? Like, you Narset wheel and the opponent's down to 0 hands. But I also had a Smothering Tithe out, so I couldn't get mana to win. I was at like 2 life or something. So if I was able to not have Narset, I would have been better off getting the treasures. But I guess that doesn't really speak to the. I guess it speaks to the power of Smothering Tithe, other than the lack of power, which you were kind of trying to say. But whatever. It's I just don't know. I don't think Smothering Tithe would get banned, especially with the recent kind of pushing of treasures. I guess just because like it's all of a sudden not like super far out of some of the power level of some other treasure cards.
Yeah, I guess I feel like the perception of the mainstream like Commander community is maybe Smothering Tithe is like the most powerful white card in Commander. Do you think that's maybe fair, or like one of them?
Sure,
I think most people probably see it that way.
Are you saying is it fair that people think that, or do I think that too?
Oh, like, do you think that's like the perception of Smothering Tithe? Like, it's like the number one. Like, you play that in like every white deck kind of card.
Yeah, I think that is the perception.
I think it's a price tag kind of reflects that. Maybe
I don't even think it's necessarily like wrong. Like, I'm not going to say it's the best white card. Like,
I could see the argument for it.
But like, I would if someone said like, "Oh, Smothering Tithe's the best white card," I'd be like, "Yeah, sure." I'm not going to argue against that, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, and maybe some people would think that just like the best cards in every color are like too strong. Like maybe that's like an argument,
right? But I feel like you don't hear that
same thing for other colors.
That like this is so bad that it needs to be banned for like the best cards in other colors necessarily.
Well, maybe you do though.
Yeah, I mean some people, but like Smothering Tithe is just it gets so much hate. Like it's just so hated on, and
there is a lot of
that. It's just so busted. And it's like it's really good mana ramp, but it's I don't know.
The one thing I always mention when I talk about Smothering Tithe is like I try to think about it compared to oh god, I can't remember. The mana rock taps for 3 mana, Eli, help me out here.
Thran
Dynamo. Dynamo. And I always try to compare to that because like let's say everyone I know it's not the same. I know it's colored mana and you can bank it up and you can get more people draw more cards, but like if your Smothering Tithe ends up being a Thran Dynamo every turn because everyone draws 1 card for their turn and you get 3 mana whatever, right? Like if that was what happens, it's kind of worse than Thran Dynamo because Thran Dynamo can tap for stuff like right away as well. So you get like an extra turn with Thran Dynamo. Obviously, like you were saying, the colors matter and stuff like that. But it's just it's not even always that though. Like people can pay for it.
Yeah,
but I guess Magic players,
Magic
players have to be drawing a lot of cards, right? Like they have to be drawing 4 cards a turn.
I mean, I remember when Smothering Tithe came out, I was thinking, well, nobody's going to ever pay for this because that just seems absurd. Like you should have more stuff to do. But like I feel like I've seen more people pay for Smothering Tithe than Rhystic Study almost. And it's stupid. I don't like that. That's
costs twice as much too. That's kind of funny. That being said, you probably should pay for Rhystic Study.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Just like if you can afford to pay for Smothering Tithe, you should. But like, obviously, whatever. But moving on to cards that would actually like really. I mean, those would frustrate us if we got banned. But I think Dockside, I would be like, okay, fine, right? If Smothering Tithe got banned, I'd be a little bit more miffed, a little bit less happy.
Well, I'd kind of be like, well, Commander player, they're always complaining like, oh, why can't we get more powerful white cards or like good white ramp? And then as soon as there is like a really strong, like better than some cards in other colors white card, if it got banned, then it's like, well, what are you supposed to do? Like, what can you have?
Yeah, like
can you not have a best card?
Like you got like Mana Drain or something in blue, and that's just like clearly like better than every other counterspell except for the free ones, I guess. But like, no, that's fine, right? Like Mana Drain's fine, but you got to brand Smothering Tithe. Like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, I get that they don't like to see cards become ubiquitous in the format, and like feel like people have to play them in every deck. But I play a lot of white decks and a lot of Boros decks, and I don't play Smothering Tithe in every deck. Mm-hmm. And that's not just because I don't have that many copies of it. Like I choose not to, and
it's not just
few decks.
Yeah.
My mono white deck does not play Smothering Tithe, and that's gonna get me some maybe
a little bit of
a little bit of hate. Yeah, like you should do that. And it's like no, I don't think I have to.
Yeah, it's not doesn't fit with what you're trying to do a lot of the time, and you'd rather have card advantage or something else or something proactive. Maybe.
Yeah, I got other stuff going on. Just trust me. All right? I know what I'm doing.
Okay. Yeah.
Take my word for it.
Yeah, and maybe not every aggro deck would want to play Smothering Tithe. Maybe they would, but not everyone, I guess. Like, I play Smothering Tithe. Wait, did I play it in my Aurelia deck? Wait.
I think you do.
I think I do, yeah, okay. Yeah. I had to think about that for a second. But you don't play it in Tajik, I know that.
Right.
Yeah. And I can see why you wouldn't. But next is a card that I think actually does have some outrage around it, and people do want this card banned, or at least some people. There's talks about it. A lot of these cards we're talking about today are cards that, like, there's kind of rumblings of people, like, maybe someone would argue it should be banned. And this next one is Drannith Magistrate. And this is a card where if it was banned, I think you and I would both be pretty upset. Like, this would make us not quit the format, but, like, it would sour our opinion of like, what's happening. Because people will make the arguments of, like, they'll make arguments against Drannith Magistrate, saying things like, well, it stops me from playing Commander, right? Like, I'm playing Commander. I'm
playing Commander to play my Commander. It's the name of the format.
Well, I play my Commander to play my deck. That's what I do, okay? And my Commander is part of my deck, but the rest of my deck still is my deck. And most of the broken shit, I shouldn't say all of, a lot of the broken shit.
One of the most broken aspects of Commander lately is the Commanders.
Yeah. And it's... What do you think is more fun? I mean, let me just ask you a question. Let's say you're playing like a Chulane deck, Eli, okay? So, something that should definitely be stopped, right? Or Chulane or Tegrid or something like that, right? Let's say Tegrid. Is it more fun for you as the Tegrid player to have a Drannith Magistrate out and not be able to cast your Commander? Or is it more fun for you to cast your Commander, then get it killed instantly because if it doesn't, you win? I think you should have more fun playing the rest of your deck, you know, and not getting blown out like that.
I think we've talked about that before on the podcast, how I don't like those new kind of commanders because I think they just lead to that kind of game where either you're making everyone else have a miserable time or they have to make you have a miserable time, because if you get to do the thing, then
just win.
Then yeah, you're just winning, or they don't get to do anything. So yeah, I think Drannith Magistrate, it's maybe, I don't think it's necessarily evil, but it's a necessary evil, so to speak.
It's another one of those. It's another one of those swords to fight against degeneracy a little bit.
Yeah, honestly, like if you think about some of the better white hate bearers, I mean, Drannith Magistrate really stacks up with them. It's asymmetrical. It's very efficient. Sadly, it looks kind of like Pleasant Kenobi, so that's like maybe the one downside it has. But yeah, it's a very good card, and I wouldn't like to see good white cards get banned while other stuff just gets to sit and exist.
That is true.
That's true. Why, like, that's really my, like, I quit the format kind of thing. If people simultaneously be complaining, like, oh, white doesn't get powerful stuff, and then when white does get powerful stuff, they're like, oh, that's too far. Not like this.
It's kind of like a mental fucking thing that happens to you. If, like, you're hearing for years that your color is, like, the worst color, it can't do anything, and then all of a sudden you get a couple powerful cards of that color to maybe put it in line with other colors, or maybe even do some things better. And then you've been fighting from the underdog position against decks that do, like, colors that have, like, really strong things that they do. Like blue gets to free counterspell things, right? You've been fighting against, like, that kind of oppressive thing.
Yeah.
But now that white gets an kind of oppressive thing, it's like, oh, that's not okay anymore. Like, that has to go.
Yeah, and this is kind of how I felt when they banned Iona. I was like, well, so yeah, I guess Iona is too far, but if somebody wants to reanimate a Vorinclex or Jin-Gitaxias on turn two,
yeah,
like, that's just fine.
Because at least you can play your spells, even if you don't have any in your hand.
Yeah.
Yes. With Jin-Gitaxias, that was the implication there. Do you want to move on to some non-white cards? Because I know we love talking white cards.
Yeah, we wanted to fill this out with some more cards from different colors on this little list, but we want to talk about maybe, like, I know there was a sort of discourse about green win conditions a while back on Magic Twitter.
Yeah, a month or two back.
And talking about Craterhoof Behemoth. I think that's a card that a lot of people feel is a little strong, and it's like, oh, that's the only way that green decks ever win is Craterhoof Behemoth.
Yeah, but I think we talked about this back then, and we're going to say it again now. I don't really have a problem at all with Craterhoof Behemoth. I mean, like, yeah, sure, it's a strong card, but, like, if you think that's the only way you can win a game in Commander, or, like, you think that's your only, like, you know, efficient win condition, like, I think that's kind of your, like single-mindedness, I guess, right? Like, you're just looking for, like, the easy one-card win conditions, and I don't know. If Craterhoof Behemoth was banned, I would be very surprised, is what I'm saying, and I'd be like, why? I get that it's a strong card, but, like, if you ban Craterhoof Behemoth, what, do the effects that kill people just get a little bit less good?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I'd be a little bit upset, actually, because Craterhoof, like, I've never had one myself, really, and I've never played it, but it's kind of like an old rival, an old friend, like...
Yeah. You want
like, oh, you again.
Yeah.
You just, like, you get used to it, and you learn how to, like... If you know somebody's playing Craterhoof a lot, like, there are some... Like, I know some people would argue with this, because it is a very simple win condition. It's like, have a
board win?
Have a very medium amount of creatures. Like, it doesn't have to be a lot of creatures. Like, they don't have to have, like, 10 creatures, Craterhoof, to win the game. It can be, like, have 5 creatures, play Craterhoof, and they all get big enough to kill at least 1 or 2 people.
Yeah.
Like, that's maybe... I can see how that would be frustrating for people. But there's... I don't know.
There's ways you can take action against it, especially if they're trying to kill everyone at the table at once. Like, maybe you can save a removal spell or something like that, and then maybe their math gets thrown off, right? And they can't kill everybody. Maybe you live, and then you and them the only person left, and you can, like, board wipe, then you're in a better situation.
I mean, I know people don't like to play fogs, but we've actually seen some pretty cool fogs lately.
Yeah, the Silver Quill one is really good. I think that's a bit pricey, but I really want to play Ink Shield.
Yeah, Ink Shield's very cool. There was a new one in Commander Legends 2, Baldur's Gate, a 5-mana green fog, that it fogs, and then you search for a basic land and put into play tap for each creature attacking you.
That sounds really cool.
That sounds pretty cool. Like,
yeah, Arachnogenesis is the old classic, one of my favorites.
Card, yeah.
One of my favorites.
I'm not saying, like, you should have to play fogs just because you're afraid of, like, Craterhoof might get you, but maybe... I mean, there's just a lot of aggro decks.
If they're making good fogs, and I have an excuse to put one of these 3 cards we just mentioned in my deck, I think I want to play one of those, right? I don't often, because, like, fogs just feel kind of bad to put in my decks. Like, it's like a slot and it doesn't do
there's
anything.
some decks they just don't do anything against, so that does suck.
But if I can find an excuse to play a fog, I kind of want to.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, there's the classic one that has, like, buyback or whatever, sacrifice a land, and that one's kind of like for inevitability, but I think I like the ones that do things a little more personally.
Yeah.
I guess there's... Yeah, I don't know. Okay, blue. We talked about green. I talked about one green card.
Here's a card that I really hate. And I wanted to put on this list because, like, we talked about Saracen, and I wanted to talk about cards that maybe... Because, like, from my perspective, if I was the rules committee and I was going to ban certain cards in Commander, I would probably ban them because of how they interact with either the specific rules of Commander or the multiplayer aspect.
So Saracen it because, like, it says 30 life on it. You mean?
Right, because it doesn't function as, like, it was intended sort of deal. And Rhystic Study, I think, is a card that... Sure, it's not like because of the rules of Commander how good it is. It's because there's...
multiplayer, right?
Yeah, you have 3 opponents.
But then again, they also make cards like that now. Like not on the same power level, right? But, like, they made Smothering Tithe with Commander in mind, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the cards they make these days are multiplayer-minded. Like, I mean, you can look at any new Commander set and you'll see a million cards that do something for each opponent.
Yeah, and that's a good thing to do usually. Like, it's usually not busted to make cards like that. It's just
it wasn't made with that in mind, right? Because it predates the format.
Right.
Rhystic Study does, and if they would have made that now, it would have probably been less efficient, right?
Yeah, Rhystic Study just becomes, like, insane efficient card draw. It's just, like, really hard. Like, if I see Rhystic Study, I've got to destroy Rhystic Study every time.
Or just pay for it, I guess, right? But it's not easy.
At the same time, if they banned Rhystic Study, I would be like, no, this is my ancient enemy. This is my worthy opponent.
It's too late.
Yeah, it's just too far gone. I don't think it would ever... Like, I think the Rules Committee... I'm trying to think, aside from something like maybe trade secrets, things that very obviously don't work right, or like something like, I think it's Yawgmoth's Bargain, the 6 mana, pay 1 life, draw a card, or Grizzlebrand. I don't think they're very quick to, like, ban cards because of, like, the insane amount of card advantage they provide.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's just a lot of that in Commander.
I mean, yeah, even a card like Bolsa Citadel, like, it's kind of...
That's a great one to bring up, because that's honestly one I could really see an argument for.
Well, that's another one. It's not quite the same, but it's like that same sort of thing where it's like 40 life, you can kind of, leverage that 40 life to do something better, more than you could do in a 20 life format, right?
Yeah, I almost... I don't know if I'd be upset if Bolsa Citadel got banned, because I don't think there's like a... we like to think that we can play like a fair Bolsa Citadel, Spencer. Like, I played that in my Chumbo Tribal deck.
Yeah.
Very expensive CMC. No way to really manipulate the top of the deck. Sometimes I play a lot of lands in my deck, so sometimes it's not that great. But anytime that it is good, it's just so good.
Yeah, I guess that's another thing for like the bannings and unbannings is like what utility does a card have to the format? I think most of the cards we mentioned before, I mean, I guess maybe with like Dockside as excluded, but like Drannith Magistrate, I think that's got some cool utility. Like, I can see why that would be a cool card to have in the format, right? I can, even if you don't agree with that, you could maybe imagine it, right? I don't know what Bowles has said it all kind of does, really.
Yeah, and I think I'd like to think that the rules committee tries to evaluate things in a very like utilitarian mindset of things doing the most good, like versus like the amount of harm that they do.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, there's a couple cards we listed there. Like if they come from my Saracen, I quit the format.
Well, another thing,
they take it from my cold dead hands.
Because we talked about Rhystic Study and Smothering Tithe. A lot of people will say that these kinds of cards are like not good for the format because they're annoying. Because like you have to add like the physical aspect of asking people to pay for things.
Oh yeah, friend of the show, Tomer from MTG Goldfish. He hates these cards.
I think that's pretty absurd. I don't have any problem with it, and I don't think it's very much to ask of someone to pay attention to the game, or even if you're not paying attention to the game, you just ask, and then you can retcon it and just be like, yeah, okay, I paid the one or I didn't. Mm-hmm. It's not that big of a deal. It doesn't bother me. I've played games with I played a game with Mangara and Esper Sentinel out, and like someone else maybe had a Rhystic Study or something, and it's like it's fine. You can keep track of it and pay or not pay.
Yeah, and it keeps you engaged in the game a little bit, I think, too.
Yeah, I'd say so. So I don't like that argument of they're annoying, so we shouldn't make cards like that, or they should be banned or something like that.
Yeah. So now we talked about what could get banned that would really upset us, or that we wouldn't understand, or would be confusing. What about cards that we would hate to see unbanned?
Yeah, what cards that could be unbanned would make us like really question if we actually want to play this format anymore, honestly.
Like you were just talking about utility for the format.
Yeah.
And we mentioned the Golos Worldfire thing earlier. What's the point of Worldfire? I just don't get it. Like I know that there's like some things, especially like I don't know, like Worldfire Jessica is kind of cool maybe. I mean that just makes it like another kind of dumb like
or
one card combo
or like the Chandra, right, that lets you
like there's stuff like that you can do, but
it's still like I don't know, man. Okay, so this isn't necessarily one that I think would ruin the format, but I think it's the most obvious one to talk about. Let's talk about Coalition Victory, because this is the one that most realistically could get unbanned, because I think a lot of people talk about Coalition Victory, and there's a lot of proponents for it being unbanned.
I think people are pretty positive on Coalition Victory.
Yeah. So what do you think about Coalition Victory, Eli?
Well, so I think the idea is the rules committee, they don't like the cards that just say like sorcery, like you win the game or something. Mm-hmm. I think Coalition Victory is weird because it's easier to win with than it looks, but at the same time it's easier to interact with than it looks.
Yeah. Because
you don't have to counter it to stop it. You just have to either remove one of the creatures or one of the lands. But that being said, that does make it another one of those cards that you have to have some kind of interaction up for.
So for me, I think if Coalition Victory was unbanned, it would be a card that I would not be happy as part of the format, but I also don't think it would cause me to feel like I should quit the format, because I don't think I would see it very much, because I don't think it would even be that good and people wouldn't play it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So I don't think it would actually affect me that much, except for just the knowledge that it exists and it kind of being a little bit frustrating.
Yeah, I feel like maybe some kind of janky, bad 5-color decks would be able to sneak a win more often, because you'd be playing against them and think, well, they're not really doing anything this game, so I don't really have to hold up removal or interaction.
Their Chromat out,
Yeah, and then they play Coalition Victory and win, and then you'd be like, oh, okay.
Okay, that was fun.
Whereas I think the better 5-color decks are just probably killing you in much scarier ways.
Yeah, like combos or other stuff like that.
Or maybe they would play Coalition Victory, but I don't feel like it would be that great. I mean,
yeah,
there's some feel bad. I think this is how people feel about combo wins, Spencer, where Commander most of the time, especially in the more casual field of Commander, is a resource accumulation game, and people don't like it when people shortcut that. Mm-hmm. And they could go from like having no board or like the fewest resources to just winning.
Yeah, a thing, a friend of the show, Bradley Mucky, I remember he would always say that he's not a huge fan of combos because the way he sees it, Commander is kind of like a movie or like a stage play, like a production, right?
Yeah.
And when a game wins with a combo out of nowhere, it's kind of like an abrupt end to the game. Like it's not. It's like stopping Star Wars at an hour and 20 minutes in.
Yeah, it's not satisfying.
Yeah, so I could see that perspective for reasons why stuff like Coalition Victory is kind of not very fun. Mm-hmm. But let's talk about some cards that would trigger us to fucking hell and back if they got unbanned. First one, and this is you might think you guys are crazy for mentioning this, but there is actual discussion amongst people about maybe these cards are not that bad. Okay.
Mm-hmm. We've seen it, all right?
We've seen it multiple times.
Promise.
This is cards in the Power 9. I know, like the cards that are banned in the Power 9. That is so like the Moxen, Black Lotus, Ancestral Recall, stuff like that, right? The amount of times that I've heard people talking about Ancestral Recall like it's not that good and it wouldn't be that good in Commander, and they wouldn't even play it.
It just draws cards, Spencer. What do you even do with that?
On a similar note, I've seen people say things like we should just unban Mox Pearl. Or not, that's the white one, right? Mox Pearl?
Oh, yeah, it was a long time. I used to have before we did the podcast, like way back in the day, I had a separate Magic Twitter account. And I remember Pleasant Kenobi tweeting about, if somebody... I'm not going to do the voice.
Yeah, that's fair.
But if somebody wanted to like rule 0, they were playing a mono white deck and they wanted to rule 0, ask, hey, can I play my Mox Pearl in this deck? He's like, oh, I'd let him. Should be totally fine.
It's a little bit...
Should just be unbanned, honestly. White needs the help.
Additionally, I've seen people talk about Black Lotus like it wouldn't even be that big of a deal. We live in a Jeweled Lotus world, like it's not even that great. It's like, okay, guys, okay.
Yeah. If they unban the Power 9, I quit the format. Like any
of them.
Any of the unbanned or the banned ones right now.
Yeah, because Time Twister is part of the Power 9, and that's...
Yeah, Time Twister, like, really... I don't know, to me it does not seem that worse than, like, a lot of stuff in the format. Yeah, it's expensive.
Yeah.
Like they all are.
It's like a Wheel of Fortune, right?
Yeah.
Kinda. Oh, just for the sake of completeness, Time Walk should be the other one, and that should not be unbanned.
If Time Walk... Yeah, if that one... Like, that would just be...
The funny thing is that I think Time Walk is the only card in the Power 9 that I haven't heard people talking about unbanning. Right? I don't think people have honestly...
If somebody did, like, if they believed that, I don't think I could take anything they said seriously.
Yeah.
They think, oh, it's just, what am I going to do? I'm going to play a land and draw card. It's just explore.
It's just explore. Just explore.
Yeah. Time Walk is...
Yeah, but that's a quit the format mood right there. On the same level of that, I think if they unban something like Tolarian Academy.
Oh, yeah, the Professor and Pleasant Kenobi had a recent Dies to Removal podcast talking about if Commander players are going too easy on each other. And I thought it was a pretty good discussion, but I think I've heard this come up other times from Pleasant Kenobi, or he's just talking about, he's got some weird takes sometimes, to be honest. If I can put that nicely. Just a little weird, I think. But he was talking about how, well, Gaia's Cradle isn't banned. Yeah. So why shouldn't Tolarian Academy? It's like the same thing, right?
Sarah's, Sarah's Sanctum or whatever.
Yeah, Sarah's Sanctum's on, man.
Whatever the red and the black ones do.
Red one's Shiv and Gorge. It's 3 mana, tap it, deal 1 damage to each opponent. Like, what even happened with the red one?
Yeah, the black one isn't any of the Cabal cards. It's the one where you sack a mountain.
Phyrexian Tower.
Yeah, where you sack a creature and get 2
mana.
Yeah,
sack a creature.
When I said mountain, by the way, I meant swamp. But that's a different... Yeah.
But yeah, Tolarian Academy. So, artifacts are a lot less... CMC or mana value than creatures most of the time. There's many more 0 mana artifacts than there are 0 mana creatures.
Yeah, that I don't even know how. Also, like, you can play like artifact lands and stuff like that,
right?
And you could play a creature land though.
Yeah, but so there is a creature land. Yeah,
creature land. Good point. Well, you can put 2 creatures in play for 2 mana or 2.
But no, I think that comes from like the school of thought of like, well, green is just it's by far the most powerful color in Commander, so like why shouldn't blue like also get? It's like no, blue is absurd.
I feel like people would unironically be okay if there was like another Gaia's Cradle that was like if they printed Gaia's Cradle but in white, and people would be like, oh yeah, that's good for the format.
Honestly, yeah.
People would say that, and that's kind of ridiculous, I think.
I mean, yeah, maybe Gaia's Cradle is kind of problematic. Maybe that could stand to be banned.
I would be okay with that, personally.
I think that would make sense. I think that would be fair. It's just an insane amount of mana. But yeah, Tolarian, I don't like the argument of this broken thing exists, so this other similar broken thing that is on the ban list should be totally fine. Like, I don't think it's healthy, because that just that opens up the floodgates. That's just like,
yeah,
it's not a good argument.
And then the last ban card that I just wanted to mention was I think this is an iconic Jimmy Wong card. Is that accurate? Biorhythm? I think he talks about that sometime. Well,
I think he won a game nights with the
Shaman of
Forgotten
Ways. Yeah. Biorhythm is just people think that card could be unbanned. A lot of people talk about that. I don't see what that adds to the format, personally.
I would hate to see Biorhythm unbanned. That's another like. I feel like that's more powerful than Coalition Victory.
I could see it. Yeah,
because it's just like, okay, I'm playing a green deck, I get to 8 mana and have a couple of creatures, or just people pretty much always have to have a creature in play if you're at that point in the game with Biorhythm unbanned. Otherwise, you're just thinking like, could I just die now?
You're like, yes.
From one card, like sure, like people could say like, well, you can do that. You can feel that way with combos.
Yeah,
but
you could like Blasphemous Act and the Red God or Toralf, but like whatever.
But that's more cards, and I feel like that's more
telegraphed a little bit.
Yeah, like there's more points of interaction with that, whereas Biorhythm would pretty much be either
you counter it or you put a creature into
play. You either
play.
Counter it, you either instant speed put a creature into play, or what you try to kill their creature in response, so the game's a draw.
Wow, like, what a great way to end the game.
Very
instead
awesome.
Of losing, we all draw.
Very cool win condition. Biorhythm, yeah. But green needs more win conditions that aren't combat. It's like no, it doesn't.
You can win by combat. It's fine.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I think that tied in with the Craterhoof discussion. I think, Spencer, people talking like, oh, how do I even win aside from Craterhoof? Should get other win conditions.
Unban Biorhythm.
Unban Biorhythm.
Print new green win conditions so I don't have to win with Craterhoof. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, do you want to talk about now that we talked about like the banned and unbanned cards, there's some other things that could happen that play into the rules of the format that would, I think, really hurt my mental.
Yeah, you know what we hate, Spencer? Change.
Change bad.
Well, I'm going to say change for Commander because I think I enjoy, like, this is a hot take, I enjoy Commander over the last couple years, for the most part. There's a few things that, I think we've kind of touched on, and we'll touch on later in this episode, but I think for the most part, you can create a pretty good game of Commander.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have control over that, but if the rules change, I don't like the idea of having to, like, house rule the rules of Commander back to the way that I want to play.
Mm-hmm.
I like the rules as they are right now.
Yeah, and the problem for me is, like, I'm a pretty, like, I'm a stickler for, like, the way the rules... Like, rules by the committee, right? So if they change, like, I don't know if they change, like, a ruling, like, this first thing we're going to talk about is, like, hybrid mana, stuff like that, or, like, color identity, like, fetch lands. If they change the way that worked, I don't think, even if I didn't like it, I think I would still play by it because that's just the way I am.
Well, yeah, we want to have a standard understanding with the rest of the people we play with.
Yeah. But, yeah, I know it's, a lot of people are very... Not to put too much hate on, but I know Pleasant Kenobi is a guy who talks a lot on Twitter about the hybrid mana rules. He really wants those changed to allow hybrid mana cards in other Commander decks, whatever. And I get it. There's arguments for and against it, but my honest opinion about that is like I just don't think that there's really any need to change it. And if there was a change, I don't think it would be for the better. Maybe not for the worse, but I think it would just be neutral. And if that's the case, like why?
Right.
It makes me think like, okay, it makes me feel like it's just pointless and like why even, I don't know, man. It just makes me feel kind of disinterested, distraught, I don't know.
It would be a huge shakeup, yeah.
How do you feel about those two rules? I think you probably have similar opinions.
So, I like the color identity rules as they are. I understand that they don't line up very well with like the actual
the way
rules,
like
how they were intended, and like how, because if you have a hybrid mana card, it's intended to be like white or
black or something, right?
Yeah. Whereas it's not supposed to necessarily be both of those, like as like a gold card.
Yeah.
It's designed differently than that.
Like in a monocolor white deck in Standard, you can play the white-green hybrid card, whereas in Commander, in your monocolor white deck, you can't play the white-green hybrid card.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think that discussion is very different than people, like you mentioned Pleasant Kenobi talking about the new Ancient Gold Dragon.
Yeah.
It's a white card that makes blue tokens. That is not even close to the same thing, in my opinion. Like, you can have a card that makes another colored card,
and
it's fine. Like when we're gonna be talking about like Generous Gift, like it's a weird color pie thing because it makes a green elephant,
which is always weird. I always thought that was weird because it, like, a white elephant just doesn't. Isn't that like a white elephant gift? Like it's so poetic, but that's fine. But yes, I agree with your point.
Yeah, or like, you got Field of the Dead. You can play that in any commander
but
deck.
It makes black zombies, right? Yeah. So, I think the way that it works now is great.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
What else works great is the Mulligan rules.
Yeah.
I think that the London Mulligan, since that was created not too long ago now, right?
3 or 4 years ago, I think?
Yeah, a few years ago now.
Yeah.
I think it's just amazing. Like, we've been able to create some very, like, great hands. Like, we've mulliganed to 5 or 4 sometimes.
Yeah, and you can still sculpt.
It's just fine.
Yeah.
But I still feel like I've had this happen multiple times going to the game shop where people will ask me, what kind of mulligan rules are we playing? And I just think, what are you playing?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
What mulligan rule do you play?
Yeah, and I think the common one that we hear is the draw 10, put 3 back. And I hate it.
Yeah, if for some reason the mulligan rule in Commander was changed to like that, I think I would quit the format. I think if one single thing would make me quit the format, it'd be like a universal mulligan rule of draw 10, put 3 back.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would actually quit. Like, I don't say that lightly. I think that might get me.
How do you feel about play groups or groups that just say, "Oh, just mulligan as many times as you want"?
Like infinite sevens.
Yeah.
Or even on just extended, like some people do like infinite, like a free 7 and then like infinite 6s or something, right?
Yeah.
I've talked about this before, so I don't want to like treadle ground too much. I really don't like that. The short thing is, like, I think that mulliganing down lower can create very cool games and cool fun experiences. Also, I think if you do play with that rule, it kind of incentivizes you to build decks to be inconsistent and like be super greedy in deck building. And it's
fine to have a bad game sometimes.
Yeah.
It's fine to just play that game that just went poorly because you had a bad mulligan. Everyone's going to have that.
Yeah, I agree. So, I don't know, man. And if you win that game, it feels even better. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so mulligan rules, great how they are. Please don't change them. Rules Committee.
I think you mentioned the off-color fetch lands thing, so that's the idea of, like, say you have a mono white deck, people think you shouldn't be able to play a Marsh Flats in there because it can get a swamp.
Yeah.
And there's no good way to ban that, right? Like, there's no good way to, like, change the rule for that. I just don't think, what are you supposed to say?
You just make, like, exact exceptions, right? Like, you just, like, say, like, okay, like, fetch lands can only be played if, like, both of the types of lands that they mention can be played in the deck, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that just gets overly specific, and because, like, you can't say, like, oh, you can't have a card that mentions another basic land type or another land type in your deck, because then it's like, what are all my Swamp Walk cards?
Yeah.
It's just, it's weird.
And do we really lose anything or do we really get anything out of banning, like, off-color fetches? Like, I get that off-color fetches are good, right? And, like, they can make your mana base better. But I don't think to an extent where, like, you feel like you have to play them or, like, you're missing out on something. I don't think it's really that big of a deal, personally. I don't feel the need to play off-color fetches.
Yeah, I feel like it's a very little edge, and I can, as somebody who doesn't like the hybrid mana rules change for somewhat like aesthetic purposes, I can maybe understand if somebody says, well, it looks weird, like it's strange to have your colored, like your off-color land and your like monocolor deck or something, and I don't know, but that's not a great argument for changing a rule, in my opinion. So I can't make that rule or make that argument for like the hybrid mana color identity rule, like in very good faith. Like it's not a great argument.
I get you. Oh, also, I just want to do a little bit of a call out real quick. I don't remember exactly where I heard about this. It was on one of the Command Zone podcasts, or the Game Nights podcast. Command Zone, sorry. They're talking about how on game nights, and this is paraphrasing, and I don't remember exactly, so if I'm a little bit inaccurate, forgive me. They do like because they film. They don't script their games at all. I don't know. Some people think they do.
They don't.
They don't. That's ridiculous. But something that they do because they only do one game and they want to make sure that it's like as good as possible.
Yeah.
They do infinite mulligans, like infinite sevens. Like they think that you're not going to abuse it. Like, okay, don't abuse it, right? Which maybe you can trust people. That's fine. But they do infinite 7 mulligans. But I think if you mulligan maybe once or maybe more than once or something, and you have Soul Ring in your opening hand, you have to like put it back and draw a new card. And I really just don't understand why. I think that, I mean, I guess they try to eliminate that situation where like you just like mulligan to fucking Oblivion and don't even play. But I mean, that happens in game nights already, right? Where people just don't play the game.
Yeah, and this is maybe going to sound kind of...
That's not real Commander, right?
This might sound a little dismissive and rude, and this is some speculation, so I know it's not great to speculate about stuff, but I think sometimes they have guests on game nights that aren't necessarily very invested Commander players, and therefore maybe don't get some things about Commander deck building.
So you're saying if they mulligan to 5, if they go below 6 cards, right? There's like no 5 cards in their deck that they can play the game with.
Between that and like maybe playing too few lands and mana sources in their decks,
yeah,
I think it might be just safer to make sure people mulligan to like a playable hand rather than assume that they're gonna like they keep like a 2-land hand or something like kind of sketchy that it's gonna be okay.
Yeah,
like I think you can look at some deck lists on game nights, and I'm sure you're gonna see a few that are playing like sub 35 lands.
I mean, sometimes they play like fucking 32, something like that, yeah.
But I mean, that's totally fair, though. I mean, like, a lot of their guests they have on, like, really aren't big Commander players. They're like, people from outside, like, in other parts of the community, and I can't speak to how much Commander experience they have, and I'm not saying, like we're not freaking geniuses or anything. It's just, if you don't play a lot of Commander, you might think, oh, like, 30 lands should be fine.
Yeah, it's a third of my deck. It's whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying people are abusing this, right? Like, I don't actually think people are, like, trying to abuse that system. But, like, if I was on game nights, I could go there with, like, 28 lands, and I could just mulligan until I have, like, a 4-land hand.
Yeah.
If I wanted to. Also, I understand, like, if you're going to do that, like, they don't want to have, like, a Soul Ring. But it seems so arbitrary to put Soul Ring back. Like, what if I have Mana Crypt? Can I keep that? I'm sure they probably make you put that back, too.
Yeah.
But like, what? Like, Burgeoning? Or can I mulligan for, like... land tax or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very, you have to assume good intention from whoever you're playing with. And I'm sure they do.
I'm sure, and I don't think people are abusing it, yeah.
Right, but I would never do that with it, because that's a very hard rule to enforce.
And also, I don't want to tell them what they should do, but I think the mulligans to low numbers make for really fun and exciting games sometimes. So I would like to see... I would imagine if I came to a game nights, if I was watching a game nights and I saw like some white player or something mulligan to 4 with like a 1-land land, and they mulligan into like 1-land land tax and like 3 good spells. Imagine what that would do for like the perception of the color, right? Wouldn't that be so cool? I think that sounds cool to me. But game nights doesn't exist to like satisfy my delusions of grandeur or whatever.
Yeah, Spencer, imagine the rules committee comes out tomorrow and says, Commander rules change, infinite mulligans. We don't want new players to have bad experiences early in their career.
quit. I would quit.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, and I guess when I say I'd quit, I mean, like, I feel like that would break. So, like I was saying earlier in the podcast, I've got this kind of, like, dedication to, like, whatever the rules are right now. Like, I will follow the rule. Like, I've got, like, sort of, like, I'm attached to it, right? Whatever the rules committee changes, I'll follow it. I think if they did something like that, I would now be playing a different format. I would have to be playing EDH 2022, I would stay there forever.
Almost for the sake of the length of your games, you have to have a mulligan rule, because otherwise, what am I supposed to sit there while somebody mulligans like 5 or 6 times? Like, we've had those games, Spencer, where we mulliganed 5 or 4, and I feel terrible for making everyone wait that long, because
like, nope, can't keep this.
And I think I shuffle pretty fast, but you ever play with somebody who, like, pile shuffles and then they mulligan like 3 times? It's terrible.
That's another thing that's a bit interesting about. Like, it's a little bit off topic, but you have to kind of like weigh in your mind when you're shuffling, like how much do I want my deck to be fully randomized, or do I want to waste people's time less, right?
Right.
And it's a little bit of a calculus of doing your mind.
Yeah, I probably hurry it way too much, and that probably comes back to bite me. But yeah, it's
yeah.
I just think it's good to have a little pressure on that to move people along.
Yep. Okay, well, what's next, Eli? What do we got next?
What if they change the infect rules? I think people are kind of over that. I think the Command Zone has done a good job of actually being honest
a little bit, yeah.
Well, they've been honest about, like, the power of, like, infect and commander as, like, not actually that easy and not that viable, because it's not viable because it's an aggro strategy. I think it's because if you look at the creatures you're forced to play for an infect deck, they're oftentimes not very, like, efficient or great.
They're usually pretty bad. And even stuff like Finn the Fangbearer or something, like, that's still like you have to play it in your commander to really get that consistently. And if that's your commander, like, that's your commander.
and then Finn forces you to play a bunch of bad Death Touch creatures instead of bad infect creatures.
Definitely, in my opinion, the best ways to infect kill people are with Triumph of the Hordes or Phyresis or Tainted Strike. Like,
something that gives infect to creatures that are already good. Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't think that those effects are super broken. I think, what was it? Oh my god, was that something? That reminds me of a Game Nights game, actually. What is it? Ayuri, the guy who was playing the red-black deck.
Oh yeah, and he went to put a Phyresis on
his the card from original Ravnica. Whatever.
Izolda.
Yeah, Izolda. And it didn't work out. But, like, if that game ended like that, I don't think it would have been too oppressive or too crazy. Like, I think that's okay. I think that's an okay power level, honestly. I personally, I play a deck where I put Phyresis on, like, a, what's the, I was gonna say Marauding Captain, the Yu-Gi-Oh card. No, the Marauder, the Minotaur that pings people for 1 when you discard a card.
Right.
And it's good and you can win with it, but, like, it's not. Yeah, I don't think Infect should change to, like, 20 or something. That'd be ridiculous.
Yeah, because then it just never works.
Yeah.
Honestly. Like, I don't know what you change that to where it's, like, still good or, like, still threatening. Like, 15? I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, I guess the other thing that kind of fits with that is commander damage. I think there's, like, a couple schools of thought on commander damage, right? And it's like that commander damage, either it, like, should be changed to be higher or lower, or I think you talked to me at one point about how Josh Lee Kwai says, like, it just shouldn't be in the game, right? Is that the case?
Oh yeah, Josh just thinks it doesn't come up
enough to even matter.
Yeah, he just thinks it should be removed. Like, if they were gonna change a rules thing about commander,
like, he's just like, it's not relevant enough to put thought into, pretty much.
Yeah, just remove it. Doesn't add anything to it just adds stuff that you have to keep track of, and that's kind of annoying. I think that's a fair point. Like, it is little bit.
It's like 50% whether I keep track of commander damage in any given time.
Yeah, I mean,
usually you can kind of think about it if you care. You can think back.
Okay, I try to keep track of it, but because we do play some decks and, like, play with some people where it does come up sometimes.
I think you can have kind of a good idea if it's going to come up or not, though, right?
Yeah.
I think you can just kind of, like, if I'm playing my Kaya or Kaza Royal Shaper deck and I attack you for 1 on turn 2 because I have no spell to cast, you don't need to keep track of 1 commander damage.
I think most people who play that kind of deck are pretty forward with saying, I'm going to deal commander damage to you, but I don't want you to keep track of it because I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
That's not how I'm planning to win. I don't even think that's, like, possible for me to win that way.
Yeah, I get you. And I think for most commanders that's the case. honestly.
Yeah, and I appreciate it when people are willing to do that, because then it's just like I'm just gonna give up that idea or like that thought. Like maybe if the game went on like literally forever, like sure you would probably start trying to track eventually as an alternate or somebody had like infinite life, or I don't know what has to happen for that mentality to shift.
Even like your Bruce and Elena deck, a deck that does attack with its commanders a lot. I feel like a lot of the times you don't win with commander damage. Like even I don't feel like Elena's going to kill anyone. I mean, she usually taps her mana, or like you don't really pump her up. Like sure she can hit for 4 double strike, but I think at that point they're going to die to regular damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like commander damage. I think it's a cool thing to have in.
I like the rule as it is, but that's
just leave it as it is. Yeah. I don't know if I would quit the format though if they.
I don't think so.
If they got rid of commander
but
damage.
If they like changed it to like another number, I would be pretty upset. Let's say they changed it like 15 or 25 or something.
If they did the pooling commander damage, where like
like if you take
damage from total commanders,
yeah,
then I quit the format. I hate that.
I mentioned Bradley earlier. Bradley killed me at the first EDH Takes extravaganza last summer. He killed me with my own commander damage. He took my Liesa and killed me. Yeah. He one-shot me with it or something.
Epic Bradley.
Because he put like I think he put like a Stratascythe on it or something, and he's playing mono blue. I think that's what happened. Yeah. Epic Bradley. What if they changed it so you couldn't die to your own commander? I don't think it comes up enough to matter. Well, what else you got, Eli?
Do we want to go full commander quarters? Full Mitch?
Yeah, what's a good quote I can say from him?
And next up we have wafers, Bobble.
Pew, 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 pew. That's like the coins or whatever. I don't know. I don't remember his. Check out my TCG player link. No, but we're going to talk about like Secret Lair, Magic, Universes Beyond, other IPs, stuff like that. Just because probably should address it. Generally, I'm not a huge fan of those. I don't think it's going to ruin the format, like to the extent that maybe people were back when the Walking Dead stuff was going on. But it does kind of, I feel, create this like lasting, creates a migraine in my head, that just sits there for the next 10 years. And as they do more, it kind of grows a little bit.
I think we just haven't been as bothered because we just don't see these cards that often.
Yeah.
But really, and I'm not saying this is a thing that necessarily happens, but I don't like it if I'm like playing with somebody and they play their weird like Universes Beyond card that's like lol so funny, like epic, and they play it and then they just look at me like waiting for me to acknowledge how fucking funny it is.
Like they play Ryu and they're like Hadouken, and they're looking at you and you're just like you're staring back at them.
I'm like, no,
stop, please, it's not funny.
I'm not amused.
Yeah. That's how I feel when I see people play a lot of the other cute cat, dog, animal, or like stuff like that cards. Honestly, that's how I feel about that.
Oh yeah, they're like, oh, you're not going to kill my doggo, are you? I'm like, yes, I am.
I will cast murder targeting Yoshimaru.
Like, oh, you can't do that. That's so sad. Like, no, it's not.
It's not.
It's literally. It's
awesome. Liberating.
I am glad that I did it, and I'll do it again.
But on that same level, other cards like besides just the Universes Beyond, Magic will often delve into the realm of goofy things. Like, for example, some of the unset stuff and the new unset cards, some of them are legal in Commander.
Yeah, we've got it seeping into black bordered Magic, which I loved the idea of like the old unsets. I remember, what was the last one? Unhinged?
Yes,
right? Correct?
Unhinged, I think.
I drafted that a couple times. It was awesome to draft. It was really fun within its own environment.
Yeah. I mean, there's always going to be goofy things in Magic, and I just have to accept that that's the case. Like, squirrels is like a thing. Like, everyone loves it. Oh, look at all the squirrels,
Yeah, even something like New Capenna is a little bit
goofy.
A little bit high energy, like, goofiness. Like, I always get, like, worried about sets like that before they come out because I know that there are people at Wizards designing cards that are like, oh my god, this card is so epic, or it's so cute, or it's so funny. And it's just like, no, can you not, please, like... Can you not just make good cards that are fun to play? Is that not enough for you?
You can make them cool characters too, but just like it doesn't have to be like.
Not everything has to be a joke. Like I don't, because it feels to me like I think we've both been this person at some point. Or I think a lot of guys do this thing, Spencer, where they identify, they're like, you know what's going to be my personality? Just being funny.
Yeah.
And then they're always trying to be funny because that's how they get their validation, like prove their self-worth. And it's just like, that's very annoying though, when you always have to be like that, when you have to be that person 100% of the time. Just be yourself, Magic. Don't be something else. I'm not looking to you for entertainment and humor. I'm looking for a good game.
It kind of feels like sometimes Magic is kind of be that kid that would always quote Monty Python every time he had the chance.
Yeah.
Not throwing any shade, just not trying to call anyone out in particular. But yeah, I mean, like, this couple of spoilers from the new cards we've seen is like, oh look, it's like hamsters in space shoots with guns or something. I don't know if they were hamsters or squirrels or whatever they were, or like, oh, I sawed this guy in half. And it's like, okay, yeah.
And I know this was like a part of the D&D like characters and IP, but like the whole like, oh, get 'em, boo, sick 'em, claw their eyes out, little hamster.
Yeah,
it's so adorbs.
The problem is like it's hit or miss, right? And that's the thing with comedy is it's going to hit or miss differently for everybody.
Most people love this stuff, so like we're just the assholes, but
yeah.
I understand that.
And I'm not going to ask them to change for me. I'm just going to say that it's not my favorite, and the more of that stuff comes out, the less I desire to play a little bit. Not in the sense that it's going to make me quit because they make like a goofy set, right? Like that's fine, but.
Yeah, because there's enough sets that is one nice thing about like the amount of sets there are is that we can kind of ignore some stuff.
I bought there's that new white card, the 2-mana 1/1 that draws a card. It's a cute little pupper, and
the dog.
I scribbled over the dog with a marker, and I play the card in my deck. I feel bad for doing it now.
You should get an altar sleeve.
Yeah,
to change the art.
Oh my god, I should make it you, Eli. You can be the dog. No, yeah, it makes Magic feel a little bit less like Magic. I hate change. I don't like you say, Eli, you don't like having to acknowledge people thinking it's hilarious every time they play something stupid. I think that Magic is profiting off of selling goofy jokes to dumb people. Not to say anyone's dumb for liking the cards. I just, there's that feeling,
It's kind of like selling like a joke in a can.
Yeah.
Like somebody can pull this thing out and be like, hey, aren't I funny because I have this object here that you have to see now?
It's like buying
Am I not epic for having this thing?
It's like buying like a magic trick at a magic shop or something where it's just like you learn how to do it and like you just do it over and over again for different people.
Oh yeah, and you know what? Like I was saying earlier, like I was that kid.
Yeah, I mean I had like the ball in the cup, right? Everyone had that.
Everyone wanted to be that person, but like you really do see that kind of person in the Magic community a lot. And like I get it. Like you need to feel good and like get validation and stuff, but it's kind of a child brain way of thinking.
I think we're just overly sensitive, honestly, like to
I am so fucking sensitive, and that's why life is so hard.
We've talked about this before of like when you're at like a commander table and the guy like pushes up his glasses and says, "Reading the card explains the card," or something like that, and you're just like, I want to die. I want to die right now.
Like, why does everything hurt me?
And the problem, and this is our problem, but Wizards is encouraging it.
Wizards is making people do it.
Wizards is breeding people that Eli and Spencer get triggered over.
Honestly, they're just cranking them out.
They're machines.
Yeah. Well, it's enough of that. I don't want to think about it anymore.
One or more two things.
The dark future. That's like that's what I imagine. It's like the start of Terminator when like there's like robot tanks crushing over skulls. Like I just imagine like these. You go into the LGS and it's everyone playing like their secret layer commanders and.
Well, I appreciate that they make like the Magic versions of those cards these days. That's really cool. Like
yeah, that is cool.
So like my buddy Reed wants to make one. I don't know. He's very vague sometimes. He's like, I'm gonna build one of the Street Fighter decks, and I'm like, hey Reed, like by the time that those end up shipping out, they'll probably have the other versions, so you can choose whichever one you want.
Yeah,
very cool. But moving, I mean, like one of the last couple things we want to talk about here is power creep, and I feel like we freaking say the same things every episode, right? But I guess that's how it be.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things going on. They kind of overlap, like the problems in Commander and the Commander community. They apply to a lot of different discussions.
Yeah, so you can
it's all kind of like
you frame how you frame everything you talk about. And
it's like we're always using the same tools to like make different shows.
I see. I bring out my hammer and my saws, but I'm making something different.
One of those tools is talking about power creep in Magic.
Yeah,
which is a very very blatant thing. Like I think we'll have to talk about this more on. We're thinking about doing an episode on comparison and like comparing things. And power creep's a good example of that because you're always comparing like a version of an effect to like an older one and being like, wow, look at all the new stuff that they add onto this. Like,
yeah, it's like this effect. It's like older effect but better, right?
Yeah, like I was talking to our friend Jesse the other day about how it was actually not that long ago in Magic where Red did not get a 2-mana 2/2. Red did not get, the first 2-mana 2/2 in Red was an Eldritch Moon.
Really?
Yes,
they're all 2/1s.
They had
right?
Goblin Pikers before that.
Yeah,
that's when I started playing Magic. Like they had Goblin Piker.
That's funny, actually.
But they got their first 2-mana 2/2, and now it's like every set that they get a 2-mana 2/2 with some kind of upside in Red. Like pretty much almost every set now.
Yeah, and there's some that I like a lot, but
and that's like a very little thing. So that's not like oh, this is so powerful that it's like ruining the game. It's just like it's easy to see the progression of power creep in the game.
And another thing about power creep with Commander is that they just keep making Commander cards. These days there's like, no exaggeration, like 15 Commander decks every year. Every set that comes out also has specific only for Commander cards in their set boosters. So we're getting, and also maybe some of the cards in the regular set are designed with Commander in mind. So we're getting like, every set, we're getting like 60 cards designed for Commander.
Frankly, it's a little surprising that I don't know if I can think of an obscene, like, broken card that's been made, like, since the first Commander Legends.
Just a lot of 8s, no 10s, right?
Yeah, no, like, Jewel Lotuses, no Opposition Agent, Hull Breacher stuff.
But the thing is, though, I will see a new card that was printed in the last, like, year, like, that I didn't remember, and I'll see someone play it, and I'll be like, oh, man, that's actually really good. But I don't know about it because it's not something super broken. It's just really good.
It was about a year ago now that Modern Horizons 2 came out, right? So
yeah,
I guess Dothy Voidwalker might be one that I would think is
that one's
a little crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's aside from that, like and that wasn't even made. That was made for Modern.
Yeah, that wasn't made for Commander.
Of all the stuff they've made for Commander lately, yeah, it's pretty mellow. I think they're doing a pretty okay job, but
the sheer number of them is actually making me kind of not want to play as much, honestly. Like, trying to keep up with everything, like upgrading my decks or even just like being aware of all the new spoilers and stuff it's too much for me sometimes.
What do you think about the idea that Commander has gotten so insanely fast that you can't play a game without it feeling like a turn 6 format, Spencer?
Yeah, I feel like there is truth to that. I mean, obviously it depends on what kind of game you're playing, but if we're imagining like an average, like maybe like what you would expect at like an LGS or something. Yeah, non-CDH, but like maybe some good decks at an LGS or something. People pull out their strong non-CDH decks, or maybe even just like their upgraded precons sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It does kind of feel like that sometimes these days, and I think the more that it progresses towards that, I think it gets a little bit less fun. What do you think?
Yeah, I honestly, I identified this years ago before like I even started playing more powerful Commander.
I guess it's been like that for a while, right?
But I liked it was mostly back in the day, like why this would happen was because people didn't understand like power discrepancy and people didn't run enough interaction. But I would identify it as being like Commander in like casual Commander or like Battle Cruiser, not like Battle Cruiser
above Battle Cruiser,
but like better than that. Could be like somebody should be threatening to win by like turn 7. I felt like in like my metas that I would play with or like the kind of decks that I would build.
Mm-hmm.
But if any kind of interaction or like real back and forth happened, like that would obviously go longer.
And maybe someone else would be threatening it, or
Right, so I still feel like I'm pretty comfortable in that environment of like by turn 7, I like the idea that somebody could be threatening a win, and I think that's a longer game than people realize. Like I think when I say the turn 6 format thing, our friend of the show, Commander Replay, PJ, has expressed the sentiment that he feels like Commander is just a turn 6 format now because I think he plays a lot of Magic Online, some with strangers, and that can be a pretty toxic community sometimes, honestly, but I think he played at GP Vegas.
Yeah.
Or some GP, and just
GP Vegas, I think.
Had some games where they were just very strong decks and fast games.
A lot of mana ramp, a lot of very efficient, like expensive cards that will take over a game, stuff like that.
Yeah, and the decks just feel very consistent now.
I think the sad part, Eli, for this kind of this microcosm of I guess it's not really a microcosm of the format if we assume that it's like kind of actually pretty big, but it kind of makes you feel like you have to like play really good ramp cards because ramp often snowballs you. So like you were saying, 7 turns isn't actually that long, right? But if you take like your first couple turns off and you're like kind of multiple levels behind the other players, like you can not really contribute too much and have other people like really super high, like having 10 mana on turn 7 versus having 7 mana on turn 7 and you just like curved out is pretty different, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It makes me feel like I have to play like not fast mana, but like more. I guess fast mana. Like it makes me feel like mana crypt and stuff is necessary.
I also kind of think like 7 turns, like depending on who you're playing with or like how the game's going, it's not as long. Or it's not as long as, or it's longer than people think it is.
Yeah, I think so.
Because there's a lot going on in that.
But imagine if all the players like didn't ramp in that situation. I think it would get to that turn pretty easily, right? That's what I'm saying. And man, the mana crazy starts really do kind of break things a lot. I think like when you go turn 1. Turn 1 Soul Ring into Signet or something stupid like that, and then it's like, okay, I have 5 mana for my commander on turn 2, and now I get to turn 7 essentially a couple turns earlier. Mm-hmm. That's pretty lame. But you know what? I am not super I'm not super upset by this like turn 6 format kind of thing because I think this is how Commander has been for most of the time I've been playing it, honestly. And it's not different enough that it's like super bothering me.
I think if the games end up being that short as far as turns, it's an indication that a lot of game actions have taken place, even if it's just one person doing all that stuff. Like, I think you can have a very back and forth game within 6 or 7 turns.
Yeah, I think so.
A lot of people doing stuff.
I think so, yeah.
And you get to have more games too. Play more games.
I'm not super. So just to bring it back, I don't think I'd quit the format if it got a little bit faster, like it has been recently. I'd say, but
yeah, it would be a little bit stressful. I think if it was faster than like a turn 6 format. I mean, I think.
Yeah, but if we're sticking around there, it's not.
I'm happy where it's at.
Additionally, what other things? If all your friends die, I would stop playing. If I didn't have people to play with.
How am I supposed to find new friends?
That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You see how we talk about like dogs and goofy cards in this show? You think any of those people want to play with us?
Yeah, people don't talk to us.
Yeah, they say...
They keep a healthy distance.
As they should. They got to watch out. Watch their step around the EDH Takes crew.
It's like in the old westerns when the bad guy walks in and like they do the sting on the piano and everyone just looks. That's us when we walk into
the game store. So just to kind of wrap up a little bit, would any one thing on this list make us quit the format? Probably not. Maybe with a couple exceptions.
I'm serious about the Sarah Ascendant, but I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, but
I think that's a safe bet for me to make. You got to hold me to that, though, Spencer.
I don't want to hold you. I don't want to force you to.
If they ban you, like hand over your cards.
I don't want to lose my
hand in your badge.
I don't want to lose my format friend. No, but it's just like the more of these things happen, the more it kind of pushes us, away from what we love. And I think it's actually really helpful to know what makes you mad, what makes you happy. And if you can just kind of think about this yourself, what would I need to quit the format? Or like how many things would need to go wrong for me to quit the format? And then you can be thankful when only one thing goes wrong. And you got 10 other things left.
Yeah, and you can, like, you come to understand that, and then when, like, a year goes by and none of those things happen, you think, oh, I feel pretty safe, I feel pretty secure, like, things are going well.
Yeah.
And it can help you appreciate the format more, because I think it's easy to forget that usually things are going pretty well. Even if we complain a lot, usually I think the Rules Committee and Wizards, they're doing a pretty good job. I'm really happy to see that Commander Legends 2 looks pretty healthy. I mean, I don't like some of the mechanics we talked about, I think, on the last episode. I don't like die rolling, I don't like dungeons that much, but
there's a lot of cool cards that isn't spoiled, too.
There's nothing that feels like it's going to ruin the game for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I can appreciate that.
Another thing that's very based about Commander Legends is the knowledge that you get from being fat tells a lot about... Never mind. That's a bit of a deep cut. Maybe I'll put context for what that means on the screen. Maybe I won't. Maybe I don't feel like it.
There's power in the knowledge of fat people.
Yeah.
I'm very powerful.
Yeah, based. Do you want to talk about this last thing we have here as well, Eli?
Yeah, maybe we were talking about stuff we don't like, and Spencer, you were expressing the sentiment of Commander's just kind of... It's Magic now.
Yeah, and I didn't come from Commander. I came from, like, Standard and other limited, modern, lots of stuff. And then, I'm a big Commander player. Like, Commander is my most played format by far. But I don't... What I fell in love with Commander wasn't like Magic, Wizards, whatever, making Commander product. I like Commander as, like, an extension of just the Magic card base. Mm-hmm. So... I think that if Wizards would go back, I think I'd be very happy if Wizards would go back to making one set of precons every year versus 15. And if they went back to just making standard sets, maybe you put some Commander cards like kind of designed in the standard sets and not have like the extra Commander cards. I don't know. I think I would prefer that, but that's not going to happen. Commander is the biggest format in Magic, and Magic is Commander now. Commander is Magic. So... That's just me, just kind of airing my grievances. It doesn't bother me that much, but I think I would prefer less precons and stuff like that.
Yeah, it doesn't feel special anymore.
Yeah, whenever a cool Commander cards come out, it's like, do I even really care about these because we get cool Commander cards every month or two?
Yeah, I used to be really hyped for the yearly Commander release. That used to be a really like exciting part of the year for me, and now it's just like, no, it's all the time.
I don't buy Commander decks anymore.
No, honestly, yeah, we don't. Like, I was thinking the new Capenna decks look kind of cool, but yeah, it just
yeah, there were some
too much
in my height of when Commander was just getting to be like the biggest format. Like, I would buy a Commander deck every year. Some years I even bought the whole set of 5 or 4 or whatever. Mm-hmm. These days, with more Commander decks coming out, it makes me buy less decks. So I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but doesn't feel like. I'm never going to keep up with the Commander decks, so why would I buy them? I can't keep up with them all. There's way too many.
Yep, because you might buy like a set to play. Like, we used to like buying precons to play against each other, but now you kind of think, well, I only got so much money I want to spend on Magic, and what if a cooler one comes out?
Yeah, I'll just buy the singles or something instead, or whatever. Yeah. But I think maybe that's about all we got to talk about today.
Yeah, please let us know what you think it would take for you to quit Commander. Like, what is the line for the average person, I wonder? Like, what are some of the main things? I wonder if it's just pretty similar to what we said, but I'd like to know if there's a more unique thing that would change that would make you want to quit Commander. So please let us know in the comments, or like find us on Twitter at EDH Takes. Feel free to subscribe. We're almost to 500 subscribers. That's very cool. We'll have to do something cool for that, and I mean that. Like, not just, like, start releasing the right amount of episodes every month.
He means, like, put out a picture. Wow, wouldn't that be cool?
We could mail Jesse to somebody.
That might be nice.
Yeah, we could do, like, a drawing.
I could mail a I could mail a secret podcast to a special fan.
Oh my god, we should record a secret podcast. Yeah.
Some people, you know how like content creators will do like special videos for Patreon? We'll just do a giveaway of one podcast episode. Us. Oh my god, that'd be so stupid. But yeah, this has been.
We should send like
what
our podcasts, like we should put them on like USBs or something, and send them to like the Ukraine or something.
Oh my god, for like the relief effort. Yeah. Okay, that's nice.
But yeah, anyways, thanks for listening. Yeah, follow us on all the stuff. At EDH Takes on Twitter. Like I said, subscribe to the channel. Give us a like. Please comment. And yeah, I've been Elijah Samuelson.
I've been Spencer Cook.
We'll see you next time.